This conference will now be recorded.
And welcome to everybody as you're signing in. We're going to get started in about 5 minutes. So you have enough time to get a cup of coffee or a glass of water and sit back and relax before our presentation in Town Hall begins. If you have any questions, there you go. That's a good idea. If anybody has any technical questions, Anna from the Best and Brightest is in our chat area. So feel free to send her a chat. Also, if any questions have come up that you'd like to post in the chat, you can do that at any time. I'll remind you of that later too.
Oops.
Got another 3 minutes before we start. Again, to everybody who's joining, there is a chat feature. Please enter your questions and we will address them as we can. One minute. Okay, it's 12 o'clock. think we can get started now. I'd like to welcome you all to the Best and Brightest COVID-19 National Town Hall. My name is Therese Marie Smith, and I'm the Director of Education and Programs with the Best and Brightest Companies and Mish Business. And today I will be your moderator. I'd like to thank each of you for joining today's discussion. This is actually our fourth installment in a series of national town halls that we've hosted to address COVID-19 related topics. As you know, in the last 2 months, our organization has pivoted to meet the changed needs of our communities. And what that pivot looks like to our winners and to our champions and to our sponsors and all the companies that we call clients is this. We're focused on providing education and connecting you with resources and information that will help your business successfully get through the COVID-19 pandemic. We are a platform for education and dialogue across all brands, across all national regions. Welcome to the town hall. I have a couple of housekeeping announcements that I'd like to make before we get into today's program. Today's town hall has been approved for 1.5 continuing education credits with SHRM and HRCI. In order to receive these credits, please fill out the survey that's going to be sent to you following today's session. Also, you will all be muted during today's town hall, but we definitely want to hear from you. We'll be dedicating time for Q&A towards the end of the discussion, but throughout the 90 minutes, please use the chat feature to let us know what questions might be emerging. Anna from the Best and Brightest teams is going to be managing the chat function, and I'll be looking out for it, but be sure to put your questions there so we can get them addressed. I'd like to introduce our speakers next, and I want to thank you for being here. We're privileged and thrilled that we have 2 members of the United States Small Business Administration with us. So I'd like to take a moment to introduce them both. And I need to read their bios because they're pretty big. First, Constance Payne Logan is the Michigan District Director of the U.S. Small Business Administration. In this role, she's responsible for the implementation of the SBA's programs and services within Michigan's 83 counties. She also oversees 11 regional small business development centers, 9 SCORE chapters, 3 women's business centers, a veterans business outreach center, and 7 micro lenders. Prior to her current role, Connie served as Michigan's SBA's Deputy District Director, and prior to that appointment, she led the district's Business Development Division, overseeing the 8A and HubZone certification programs, and leading small business initiatives for underserved and economically distressed markets. She successfully implemented and directed the Detroit Empowerment Zone's One Capital Shop Detroit, and for 3 consecutive years led the SBA's prestigious Emerging Leaders Program. Included in her federal service is more than 10 years in Washington, D.C., with experience in government contract administration, negotiations, acquisition planning, procurement policy, and technical program management, and at the Department of Defense, Environmental Protection Agency, and the SBA. Welcome, Connie. Next,
Thank
Robert Scott. Rob serves as the Regional Administrator for Region 5 of the U.S. Small Business Administration, overseeing the delivery of the agency's financial assistance, technical assistance, and government contracting activities throughout Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio, and Wisconsin. Prior to being with the SBA, Rob ran his own consulting firm. He practiced law at Oldham and, is it Dietering? Am I saying that
Dietering,
right?
yeah.
Dietering, okay, in Dayton, Ohio, and served as the vice mayor in Kettering, Ohio, where he remains in service as a city councilman. He's worked in the Ohio House of Representatives as a legislative aide and on several major political campaigns in Ohio. Additionally, Rob wrote for the Dayton Daily News, Dayton City Paper, and was a syndicated columnist for Brown Newspapers Incorporated. He received a 40 Under 40 award from the American Association of Political Consultants in 2016, and the Dayton Business Journal named him one of the city's most notable 40 Under 40 professionals in 2015. Welcome, Rob.
Thank you for having me.
And again, welcome to everybody who has joined the call. We're expecting a lot of folks today. When we created our national town halls, we wanted to provide our community with a deep understanding of COVID-related issues so that our clients can not only learn, but apply knowledge from our experts in order to find real-time solutions. So this town hall is going to be a little bit different than town halls in the past. Connie and Rob are going to start our town hall with an overview of the many updates that have been made to the P3 loans. As you listen again, please use the chat function to ask any questions that come up. After their overview, I'll ask Connie and Rob the questions that you posed during registration, as well as some of the questions that are coming in through the chat. We're going to do our best to answer as many questions as possible. So Connie and Rob, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Well, thank you, and certainly like to thank our audience for tuning in and listening to myself and Connie. One thing you didn't say, Therese, about Connie is she actually is a mother of two and a wife, so her schedule is booked in Michigan. But I'm absolutely happy to have Connie on. She's doing a great job in the state of Michigan. She's for all you folks in Michigan, she's the district director in Michigan, so she oversees the entire staff. We have an office in Detroit and then another office in Grand Rapids. So if you all in Michigan need some assistance, they're helping people 7 days a week, every day, putting in the hours. And if you guys need some assistance or if it gets a little too technical. One thing that I will guarantee you all that are listening in is we don't have all the answers. I don't. I know Connie doesn't. So we're both in the same boat. But the one thing that I do promise you is if you ask us a question and we don't know the answer, we'll get back with you certainly and get you that answer. May not be one you like, but we'll definitely do our best to get you a great answer that you can rely on. So with that, Connie, did you want to say anything opening?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for having us. And again, as Rob mentioned, I cover the state of Michigan, and we are certainly here to serve all the small businesses. And it's all about you and the economy. So whatever we can do, and my team, we're certainly here to help you. So thanks again for having us.
All right. So we'll begin. You know, we have a few slides for you all. We do like visuals at the U.S. Small Business Administration. And again, we are talking about an extremely complicated topic. I know a lot of you have been following it. The U.S. Small Business Administration certainly is on the map now. Before we were this tiny little federal agency, cabinet level agency, which now everyone's talking about it. So it's kind of surreal for all of us who are low drama people and just like working with small businesses. But now we're high drama, and that's fine. We definitely are up to the task. So, but what I'm going to provide you is kind of a brief overview of kind of where we've been, where we're going, and kind of get deeper and deeper into details. So I'm going to give a 50,000 foot and then get a little deeper. Obviously, all of this began, you know, the CARES Act, which you can see up there on the slide, is the bipartisan legislation that was passed in the end of March, signed into law by President Trump. It was passed on March 27th. On April 3rd, the U.S. Small Business Administration was beginning to take applications through lenders. So folks that want the PPP loan, which is what we're mostly going to be talking about here, the Paycheck Protection Program, you had to go to a local lender who was a PPP lender, and then they would enter in your application into our system. The Paycheck Protection Program, as I said, I'm going to get a little more deeper into detail. I'm just giving you a broad overview of the CARES Act. The other thing in the CARES Act that was passed by Congress was the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Advance, or what they called the grant. And what that was is somebody that applied for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, they could actually also apply for advance while they were applying for the overall loan. and they could get a quick advance within $10,000. And the way that it works is for every one employee, you would get $1,000 all the way up to $10,000 and obviously top out on that. This advance was essentially a grant. So you did not need to pay it back. Literally, it does interact with the PPP, which I will discuss later, but this was another portion that was passed under the CARES Act on March 27th. The other great thing, which is starting to finally get some attention, which I'm very happy about, was the Small Business Administration debt relief. Anyone that had an SBA loan prior to the COVID pandemic automatically got a 6-month deferral on any SBA loan. Additionally, anyone that got a new SBA loan, during the COVID period, whether it be a PPP or any other traditional SBA product, which I'll go into detail, would also get a 6-month deferral. Now that has since changed. Now, if you go for an SBA product or a PPP loan, you actually get a 10-month deferral now. So again, and what I'm speaking of when it comes to deferral is you don't need to make any payments on the loan, on interest, principal, anything for that period of time. So it does give you some breathing room when you get an SBA loan or if you have an SBA loan. Again, more on this later. The other item would be our traditional kind of normal programs that we offer. We offered before COVID, we're offering during COVID, we will offer many years after COVID, is kind of our bread and butter based programs. So we have the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and this is through our Office of Disaster Assistance. Now, just to kind of give you guys a broad timeline here, for us, it's like a blur. It seems like yesterday. And I'm sure for some of you small business owners out there, it's the same thing. But we began offering the economic injury disaster loans even before the March 27th date when it came to the COVID disaster. I don't know if any of you remember this, but we remember it because we had to help put the pieces in place. But essentially, we were offering, and it's EIDL for short, we were offering the EIDL loans where the state of Michigan was actually declared, hey, this is a disaster. Businesses are economically impacted. Thus, we need to open up the state for folks to apply to the federal government to get these low interest disaster loans to assist small businesses. So these were here before the CARES Act, and it was actually open to the pandemic before the CARES Act was passed. Then we had the CARES Act that was passed, which actually offered the advance program as a portion of the EIDL, under the CARES Act as a portion of the EIDL advance was also included in that. So it kind of modified the program while we were already doing it. And then obviously we had the PPP program after that. So there's a huge timeline there just so that we're all clear. But the economic injury disaster loan is something that we've had for many years. This isn't unique to the COVID pandemic, but the advance portion is unique to the COVID portion. Some of you in Michigan, I know, have been affected by flooding, and you will be hearing more about the economic injury disaster loan program per the flooding. It is declared depending on the disaster. Obviously, COVID is the first time every state and territory in the United States has been declared a disaster because obviously it's affecting the entire world. But with the flooding in Michigan, it will be a separate declaration that businesses can actually apply per the flood, if you've had any injury due to the flooding that is occurring or has occurred in Michigan. So you will be hearing more about that, not maybe associated with this program, but elsewhere out there in the community. Additionally, we have our typical SBA lending program. That's kind of what we're known for. When somebody said, if you would ask somebody, hey, what's the SBA known for? It would be, oh yeah, an SBA loan. I can get that for my business, or I can get that to buy a business. We still have all of those programs available under what is called the 7A program, as well as the 504 program. I know this is like all statutory gibberish to all of you listening, but it just kind of depends on what you want to use the money for. 7A program is typically, you can really use it for anything, but it's normally used, types things like a line of credit, for your business, a capital line, express loans, those type of things. Whereas a 504 is typically used for those hard assets like a building, like land, like equipment. And again, kind of doesn't matter. All you care about is getting the capital, and one of us will help you choose which program, or your banker will absolutely help you choose. The other thing that the SBA does offer, we're not well known for it because again, we're known for the lending programs, is we do business counseling. We do offer online, free on-demand webinars. You can go to sba.gov. Any topic you can think of is certainly on there that you can research, whether it's finance 101 or how to do a business plan, whatever it may be. It's on there. Additionally, we have a number of resource partners that we collaborate with, like the Small Business Development Centers. And in Michigan, what I will tell you in my region, covering 6 states, the Michigan Small Business Development Center is I would definitely say the best in my region, and then also probably one of the best in the country. So I would definitely reach out to the Michigan Small Business Development Center. They're very active. They're certainly neck deep in this disaster and what we're going through now. So be sure to look them up. Additionally, we also work with SCORE, which these are volunteers that offer their time, no charge, that you can certainly meet with online. I know they're not doing face-to-face, but if you just Google SCORE, it'll come up there, and any topic and any expert, they really have a host of volunteers that can really hit any topic that you can think of if you need assistance. So that kind of completes kind of the 50,000 foot view over the SBA. Connie, did you want to add anything on that? I know we're going to get deeper.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, Rob, you gave a great overview of the EIDL program and how you're right. That started for the state of Michigan, March 19th. That's the date that it was actually designated as a disaster. So our work started to ramp up prior to that, because as we work with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, as well as the Small Business Development Center, to actually help the state put together the application package. As he mentioned, SBDC, we have a huddle every morning with all of our resource partners to actually help small businesses in terms of even looking at the PPP, putting together the package that you need, and they will be working on small businesses as well in terms of the forgiveness portion. So great team that we have in Michigan. So I'm certainly we can be of assistance to whomever's on the call.
Excellent. All right.
Shall I go to the next slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Give me just a second here.
Okay, so we're going to do a little timeline, and I'll get through this slide pretty quick, but it's on the Paycheck Protection Program, and kind of, again, to know the dates and amounts of money that we're dealing with. But the total funding for the PPP program is $659 billion thus far. And as I said, it was passed and signed into law on March 27th. We began taking applications for the PPP on April 3rd. That first round of funding, we exhausted it rapidly. It was within 2 weeks. Congress, with the support of President Trump, did step in. They gave us another allocation of money. Since there's been a lot of guidance released, the SBA administrator was speaking in front of Congress 2 days ago, and she literally stated 23 different pieces of guidance on the PPP program has released in the form of interim final rules, FAQs, announcements, you name it. So this is a complex program. It can be complex, but we're trying to simplify it through the forgiveness application. So obviously, part of the great thing about the PPP program is that it can be completely forgiven as long as you follow the rules. And we did release an application for the borrowers to actually begin to fill out on May 15th, and we also included additional guidance on May 22nd. You can find all of this information and the actual application on our website at sba.gov. And if you want the exact URL, it's sba.gov/paycheck protection. but SBA.gov will certainly get you there. But all of this information, all the rules are on there. Probably the more notable thing that is in the news right now, since it's just happened last week, was that Congress, along with the president, put into law the PPP Flexibility Act on June 5th. What this does is its goal is to actually simplify the PPP forgiveness portion and actually extend some of the guidance within the rules, which, as I said, I'm going to get more into detail about. Additionally, there was actually an interim final rule issued just yesterday. Basically, what it is it took the Flexibility Act and codified it inside our rules. And again, there will be more updates when it comes to the forgiveness portion under the Flexibility Act. Just so we know some of the numbers out there, we have approved, the SBA has approved 4.5 million PPP loans. And they certainly are going to small businesses and nonprofits, sole proprietors, independent contractors, you name it. So it is a very, very impressive program and one that has certainly assisted a lot of businesses out there. We have about a little over $130 billion left in the PPP program. So if you're looking to get a PPP loan, you're still on the sidelines. Make sure that you apply. There is still money left, but you only have until June 30th to apply for a PPP loan. Next slide, please. Oh, and exactly what I just said. It's like I was queuing up the slides. So we have $130 billion left. We do have some safe harbor provisions that are in there for businesses. One of the big criticisms of the PPP program was a couple things. One was the fact that it had this 8-week timeline. And a lot of businesses out there, and again, Congress did the best they could, the president did the best they could, said, okay, this pandemic will last about 2 months, then businesses will start to open again. Well, part of initially the PPP program, when it was passed, it was like, listen, once you get this money, you got to start paying your workers, because part of the program is 75% prior to the change. 75% had to be used for payroll, 25% had to be used for qualified business expenses. That was one of the criticisms is, hey, why I can't pay my employees and open my doors. The state is saying, hey, you can't open if you're a restaurant or one of those businesses that fall under that category. Well, with the Flexibility Act, it took that 8 weeks and turned it into 24 weeks. So it gave businesses a lot more flexibility on that compliance portion on paying their employees. It actually took it all the way into the end of this calendar year. So there are several states out there that still are not fully open, or a business can't open to 100%, they're at 50% capacity, or whatever the unique situation is. And there's no way the law can be written to cover every single situation. So we certainly do the best we can do when it comes to that. The other great thing that it did is it took that 75% has to be used for payroll, it took it down to 60%. Again, Congress and the president responded, hearing a lot of feedback from businesses saying, hey, 75%, that's just not going to work for me. I can't make it. So it brought it down to 60% being eligible for payroll, and then 40% for qualified business expenses, and then it could actually be forgiven. It is not an all or nothing proposition. That is one thing that we hear a lot from businesses is, oh, if I don't meet 60%, is nothing forgiven? Absolutely not. It is slidable. So say like you only can get it up to 50% payroll, then that portion will be forgiven. Obviously, you're not going to get 50% of the qualified business expenses, so it would slide to the guide of the 50%, but you would have the majority of the loan certainly forgiven. Again, I had stated that it is now 24 weeks and not 8 weeks, so it does open it up a little more. Again, I want to restate, if you want to apply for a PPP loan, you only have until the end of this month, June 30th of 2020. Make sure you speak to a PPP lender. We have over 5,000 of them now. When originally we started off with a little over 800. So there's a lot of lending institutions ranging from your biggest of your biggest financial institutions to the very smallest of your smallest, whether it be a CDFI, a local credit union, or a community bank. They're all on there. If you do not have a banking relationship, or you want a new banking relationship or whatever it may be, you can certainly find a PPP lender at sba.gov. Next slide, please.
Hey, Rob.
Sorry, Connie, go ahead.
To say, that's okay. I just want to say what we heard, a concern that we heard is that a lot of individual businesses didn't know what bank to go to, or they had an issue with connecting with their bank. So what we've done in Michigan is we have a comprehensive list of all SBA lenders that have been approved in Michigan, as well as the new credit unions, the fintechs. So if anyone is interested in a list of lenders, if you email us at michigan@sba.gov, we can give you a comprehensive list of lenders that are participating in PPP. Thanks, Rob.
All right. So again, we're starting to dig a little deeper when it comes to issues that we're hearing about, and kind of some most common questions that we are hearing from the SBA standpoint when it comes to forgiveness and what you all can use the PPP proceeds for. One thing that I was asked a lot, and I've done, and I know Connie's done a lot of these webinars with businesses all across the spectrum, is, hey, can I give my employees hazard pay or bonuses? How does that all parlay? Can that be used as an eligible payroll cost and be part of the forgiveness? Absolutely. What I would advise you, and again, these forgiveness applications are going to be submitted to the lender, not the SBA. It's going to go to the lender. So the lender is going to be the one you're working with when it comes to forgiveness. With a bonus, make it reasonable. If you're paying yourself $1 million bonus, or paying if you got somebody else who's a buddy of yours on the payroll, you're paying them don't do that. Make it reasonable. I know that doesn't give you warm and fuzzies, but certainly, a couple extra $1,000 is not going to be, crazy. That's fine. But when you're talking real, like, millions or hundreds of thousands of dollars bonuses that out of nowhere you're paying them, don't do that. That's going to be flagged. Obviously, there is a full-time equivalency test. And that would be for 40 hours a week. If they do work less than 40, there is a little calculation you have to do in the loan forgiveness application, and it's based on rounded to the nearest 10. So obviously, if you're 30 hours, 20 hours, it goes all the way down in the forgiveness test. There's also, obviously, with the 60-40, so it used to be 75-25, it's 60-40 now. There are non-payroll costs that certainly can be part of your PPP loan forgiveness. Such things as your business lease. So obviously, if you're renting a space, that can be certainly a part of it. If you own it, the rent portion can be a part of it as well. Personal property, under the law, personal property, which would be, equipment, whether it be, if you're a restaurant, if you rent the cooking equipment, or if you're a contractor and you're renting tools or a backhoe, whatever, and you're under a contract, those would certainly apply. We use an example as a refrigeration truck. Utilities are also included in that. Electric, gas, water, your phone bill. Internet is also included in that, so any internet costs. It also added in transportation, so that would include any gas, any mileage, any leases for a business vehicle, any payments for a business vehicle, obviously your personal vehicle. If you have business vehicles and you're using your personal vehicle, you can certainly write off the mileage or the gas on that. So all of that can be included. It is an extensive list, and certainly make sure that you can fit it into one of those categories. Just so you know, when the clock starts ticking for the forgiveness application, and when you need to begin thinking about, okay, how am I going to comply, is when you actually get the funds. So you couldn't get the funds and then sit on the money, and then 8 weeks later decide, oh, okay, I'm gonna start paying my employees. That funding actually does be that decision point has to begin once you get those disbursement of funds. The loan forgiveness application does allow you some flexibility when it comes to your pay periods, because not everyone, there's business out there that go week to week, they go month to month, they go bi-weekly. And you may get your funds on a Wednesday and your pay period start on Monday. So there is some flexibility in what they call an alternate pay schedule that's in the loan forgiveness application. And I keep referring to the loan forgiveness application. Note that this is also on our website, sba.gov. It's on Treasury's website. It is 11 pages. Like 8.5 of the pages are instructions to help you kind of fill it out. So don't get intimidated by an 11-page application. Additionally, there are a lot of third-party folks out there that are offering a lot of information on there. And again, I will plug it, but I do know that the American Association of CPAs, they have a bunch of information on their website that I would look at to kind of clarify some of this. And then also there are some entrepreneurs out there, one in particular who's on Shark Tank, a guy named Mark Cuban. He started his own thing where you can, a small business owner can get on, type in all their information, and it churns out a completed loan forgiveness application. Obviously, I've seen it. Check it out. It may give you some insight on how to kind of do the loan application. The
Rob,
other thing,
can I jump in real quick? We've had several questions, and I just want to hit it now while you're on this topic.
Sure.
Several people have asked about cell phone and internet charges, especially given that many employees are working remote. Could you address that?
Yeah, they are definitely included. They are a qualified business expense. So, a cell phone is a phone and it is a utility. So you can actually include that as well as your internet provider. That can be included. Now, you can't say, oh, this entire year I'm gonna use it for that. No, it's got to be that period of time. So it's either got to be when it was incurred or the payment for the period that you're using the PPP fund proceeds for. So it's not like, oh, and you can't advance pay either. That is something that is specific in the regulations. So you can't prepay your cell phone bill, 2 years in advance. It's got to be within the qualified period.
Okay, two more things that are in here while you're on the forgivable expenses. One is about copier and copier toner. The other one is, can personal protection equipment and sanitation of the office be reimbursable?
Okay, so on the copier, I would imagine there's a lease because those things are expensive. So if that's deemed equipment, and so if it's an equipment lease, absolutely that can be a part of it. And then I would probably say the toner is a part of the lease. I know in my law firm, we actually had a lease and it actually provided toner. So all of that would be included if it was a contract and a lease. The rule is that contract or lease had to be actually engaged in before February 15th of 2020. Again, so if that's the case. The other question would be what we're calling PPE materials. I do know there's been a lot of discussion on whether or not that should be included for the forgiveness, because obviously it's part of dealing with the pandemic. Right now, what I'll say is that's a gray area. There hasn't been a specific ruling on that, but if I had to bet on that, it will likely be included in a interim rule or an FAQ.
Okay. Another one, and this came up twice, one in the chat and one at registration. Somebody in the chat said, what about maintenance to utilities? They have to replace an air unit furnace. Another had mentioned the same thing. We need to replace a furnace. If that happens during this period of time, is that something that falls under this?
I would probably lean towards no. So if it's a maintenance, if it's just like simple, like typical maintenance, like you're on under, I know there's HVAC companies that do month-to-month payments where they come in 2 times a year and they do maintenance or whatever it may be. I would say that would be covered. But if all of a sudden it's like, oh, I got to replace a furnace or something like that, that from my understanding and knowledge of the rules and the law is that is not going to be covered. But no, money is liquid. So, you know, if that may not be covered, push other things into that can be covered in your business. Obviously, the PPP program is not going to cover your business 100% on everything. If I had to guess, everyone on this call, it doesn't cover 100%. So what I would do is push things that you would pay with, you know, your non-PPP funds, push it into there, and then use those funds to pay for that furnace.
Thanks.
Any more questions?
There's
We love
a
questions.
question. Okay. Bob asked, what if we prepaid a lease for 12 months, but it covered the PPP eligible period? The prepayment was made before the funds were received.
And so here's the question: if you're having to, if that's part of the rule, you have to prepay like a year's contract or whatever, and if that falls in the period, if it's incurred during the period, then yes. As far as you using that prepayment for that period of time, no, you're not going to be able to do that. It was already paid. You've already received the benefit of it. Again, I would probably garner to give you the advice that, you know, again, money is liquid, so, you know, push something else that you would normally pay into the PPP loan forgiveness.
I'm going to keep it on the expenses since that's what we're talking about. Another utilities question. Waste disposal and medical waste disposal, alarm and security services, record destruction. Are those utilities?
I would probably garner to say no, but I'm going to follow up with saying all of that. Well, the security, I think you could deem a utility, but there are other catch-alls in the rule and in the loan forgiveness application that would call all those that you described if it's in the normal course of their business, and that they are under contract for those. So I'm sure like the medical waste disposal, the trash. I would say the trash is a utility, but again, it's really state specific or locally specific when it comes to that, because I know some jurisdictions you have to use their trash holder, or it's provided by the city or whatever it may be. But I would garner to say the regular trash disposal or the business trash disposal, the medical waste, I think that's a gray area, but I still think it's covered. These are ordinary business expenses in your business that you can certainly find a category that they would fall into the loan forgiveness application.
Great. What about the interest expense on a term loan for equipment?
Yes.
Would that qualify?
Yes, okay. And that actually specifically is called out in the forgiveness application. That absolutely is covered. You can certainly use it for that and it to be forgiven.
And this question came from, I'm pretty sure it came from an accountant. Mortgage on real or personal property. What is meant by a mortgage on personal property?
A mortgage on personal property would be like that example that was just asked. So a personal property could be, you know, a piece of equipment. It could be, I'm trying to think, it could be a car. You could deem a car personal property. It's a legal term of art. So real property would be like land or a building. Personal property would be more of those tangible things that are out there, like a car that are more movable. You can't move land normally, but that's what that's for.
So it's the lease itself.
Correct.
Okay. And one last expense question. What about retirement contributions for 2019 that are paid within that 24-week period?
I would say yes, because again, the way the rule states is if it's incurred during that period, absolutely. If it is actually, if you can prove that it's incurred every year, during that period of time and it falls within that qualified period, absolutely. And retirement benefits are a part of the payroll. So you can actually push that into the 60% requirement retirement. So I would make that argument that yes.
Okay. You may have already answered this, but interest on the equipment loans, is that part too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's
Yes.
absolutely included.
Mhm.
Okay. Great. All right. I think that's what we have on expenses so far. Let me
Okay.
check the chat.
Let me complete the slide, and maybe it'll open up some more questions, or people are thinking of some more as we speak. Real quick, you did advance it, but I can cover it. I knew what was on it. So if you did get an EIDL advance, just for the folks that are on there that did get the EIDL advance, that does interact with and the overall EIDL loan does interact with the PPP program. So if you got an EIDL advance, it's actually deducted from your PPP loan forgiveness. And again, that EIDL advance is up to $10,000. So if you did get it, you will need to put it on your loan forgiveness application and let your lender know what it's basically the federal government saying you can't double dip. You're not going to be able to get the EIDL advance and get that, out the door free, and also the PPP loan forgiveness free. They're not going to allow you to have both. So it will be deducted actually from the forgiveness. So I just wanted to clear that. The other one caveat here I want to say is when it comes to your loan forgiveness application, if you got a PPP loan over $2 million, you're going to be handled a little differently than somebody under $2 million. If you're over $2 million, I would highly recommend you get some professional advice and make sure your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed, because those are definitely going to get looked at. The Treasury has said that they are going to be looking at any PPP loan that is over $2 million. Next slide. All right, so to kind of talk about the economic injury disaster loan and obviously the advance program, just to kind of give you all a quick update when it comes to that program. There has been absolutely astronomical interest in this program. It is managed by the Office of Disaster Assistance, and they're doing everything they can to process them very quickly. There is a huge backlog. There may be a lot of people on this call that actually did apply. The disaster assistance program is bringing on more folks and more resources to certainly manage the demand. That advanced portion I have talked about a couple times. Note that if you apply for it, it's just automatically deposited into the banking and routing information that you provide. This program, they are handled on a first come, first served basis. I do have some late breaking news when it comes to this program that I know Connie has heard, and we are going to begin on Monday, this Monday coming up here, begin retaking. It was a closed system other than for ag businesses. Any business now, whether you're in the ag world or regular suburban, urban, you will be able to begin reapplying for the EIDL loan. The economic injury disaster loan. You were all the way up until it was the end of April. It was closed because we had over 5 million applications. We didn't even have enough appropriations to cover the asks and certainly what we could approve. But just so everyone on the call, if you are interested in the economic injury disaster loan, you can go to sba.gov and you'll find a link to apply. It's a very quick application, takes 5 minutes. It's a very simplified process. The terms of the loan, just so we're clear, is you can get a low interest if you're a for-profit business, 3.75% interest, up to a 30-year term, up to $2 million in that low interest loan. So if you haven't applied for it and that is something that interests you, you can go to sba.gov and know that it is starting Monday. This slide is out. Well, it's not out of date yet. It'll be out of date on Monday. But starting Monday morning, if you're more than a agricultural business, you will be able to apply once again for it. And if you do have an EIDL loan currently, you can certainly get an update by calling our 1-800 number or emailing disastercustomerservice@sba.gov. And that will be all I have to say on the economic injury disaster loan program. And then obviously we have our our existing programs that have not changed. Please know that you do not come to us for a traditional SBA loan. You go to an SBA lender. So you're not going to call Rob or Connie up and saying, hey, I want an SBA loan. We're more than happy to help you and try to help you find an SBA lender. But there are plenty of SBA lenders out there that are really good that will sit down with you and kind of guide you on which program best fits for you. Obviously, interest rates right now are extremely competitive. The banks can essentially get the loan for next to nothing. But these are loans. They aren't grants. They're not the PPP program where it could be forgiven. These are actual loans. But note that if you need these traditional SBA loans, they are also part of the SBA debt relief, where you do not even need to make a payment on them. For now, it's up to 10 months. And this rule is going to be in place until September 30th. So you have up until September 30th to actually apply for a traditional SBA loan and get that deferral period. So make sure you look into that. It can be used for fixed or certainly any capital that you may need. The other cool thing is, as part of the CARES Act, we have what is called the Express program. And it's basically lenders that are SBA Express lenders. They could only lend you $350,000, and they would normally do it within a couple days. It's a very quick program. It's actually faster than PPP, but it is a loan. Now they can go up to $1 million under the CARES Act. So if you meet with an SBA lender, ask them about the Express loan program. It could be a way that if you need cash quick, within a couple days, you could get up to $1 million. We also have what is called the Express Bridge Loan Program. It's not as popular, but it is a program that you can get up to $25,000 to bridge any gap that you may have. If you maybe a month is bad, you can certainly ask for the Express Bridge Loan Program. But definitely work with an SBA lender. They will help you. Obviously, I talked about what we do as far as business advising and mentoring, that we have a range of topics online. You don't even need to leave your home and your PJs. You can sit there and watch them at 3 a.m. Any topic you can think of on SBA.gov. And then certainly we work with our resource partners, the Small Business Development Centers and SCORE. I'm sure Connie has some Women Business Development Centers and Veteran Business Centers as well. Connie, right. Anything you want to add on any of that?
Yeah, great job, Rob. I just want to state that I know Rob has covered a lot. We talked about a lot of programs, but again, reach out to us, because if we can help kind of triage and, walk you through what you really need, what's beneficial to you. I mean, let us help you do that either through my office or our resource partners. I mean, that's why we're here, to help you walk through that process and really get the best product for you at this particular time.
Yeah, I think let's go to our chat. I'm going to go back to the beginning, because the chats have started right from the moment you started talking. Jean asks, with a new 24-week covered period, will borrowers be able to submit their loan forgiveness earlier than 24 weeks, but after their original 8-week covered period?
Yes. Now, please note, this is very dependent on the lender too. I know one lender in particular that I've spoken to, where though they under the law they could actually take the loan forgiveness application. They have said, nope, we're not ready yet as an institution. We will be ready in 2 weeks. So it is very lender specific, because under the law now, they don't absolutely have to submit, because we extended the period. We, as in the government, Congress, and the president. So there are lenders out there that are not ready yet. So speak with your lender that you got your PPP loan through, and they will help guide you through that process. A lot of lenders also are using third-party vendors to make it simpler on them and honestly simpler on you when it comes to providing that documentation. Because in the loan forgiveness application, it does ask for some documents to kind of back up what you're saying the money went to.
A question, can I run the owner's payroll during this time if owner had not previously taken payroll before?
I mean, the payroll okay, I question that. So are they taking profit? Are they taking a distribution? If that's what they're saying is payroll, then yeah, they can. In the loan forgiveness application, there's two sections. The one section is literally for your employees. Note that it is capped at $100,000. So if you pay an employee over $100,000, it's only capped at 100K. For an owner, there is another section for owners that you have to fill out, because again, we want to prevent an owner going, oh, I think I'm going to pay myself an extra $1 million this year and use the PPP program for that. We will not allow that. So the owner has a separate section that they actually have to fill out. But again, that is also capped at $100,000. So if you're that high roller out there making $1 million a year, we are not going to allow you to pay yourself $1 million out of the PPP proceeds. It will be capped at 100 grand.
Thanks. Another question. Now that the 8 weeks has been expanded to 24, is the maximum forgiveness per employee 43,153 instead of 15,384?
No. So if you got a PPP loan, and I believe June 5th is the cutoff, prior to that, you're still under that 8 week standard. So what they said, it was the 1,000 and change. That's what it's under. If you're after that, that's when the new period begins. So if you have not got a PPP loan yet, you actually benefit a little more after the Flexibility Act was passed.
Sticking with the 100K, can you pay above the $19.23 per week for 100K from other funding?
Yes, that is not forbidden. So say like you want to pay yourself or pay an employee 100K, and then you say, you know what, I still want to pay them what I have, and you have that resources available, you absolutely can. Note that only up to the 100K will be forgiven though.
Great. How do you handle independent contractors? How do they handle that, creating wages under the P3?
So independent contractors, you cannot use in the forgiveness application. And the reason why is independent contractors themselves can actually apply for a PPP loan. So you cannot deduct independent contractors as your payroll or as in employees, because they're not.
Okay, from Sherry, when using the new 24-week period, can we still use the alternate method to align with our pay periods? And if we use all of our PPP money in, say, 10 weeks, can we then apply for forgiveness right away, or do we have to wait till the end of the 24 weeks?
Yeah, you can still use the alternate pay period. That nothing has changed on that. And the second question is, again, that's very lender specific. I don't want to say, I mean, absolutely, yes, you can once you exhaust the funds and you're ready to file under the rules and the law, you can, but it also is dependent on your lender. Because again, we extended that deadline. So what I would say is have that conversation with your lender. Most lenders are going to be on the ball, ready, or they'll say, hey, we're not ready yet, but in 2 weeks. I will tell you the major lenders are the ones that are going to have the issues. So if you got your loan at Chase or some big lender, Bank of America, I mean, they did hundreds of thousands of these. So that is going to be a logistical issue for them. So I would, if I had to guess, one, they're going to go to a third-party vendor. But have a conversation with your banker or whoever you do your business with, your financial institution business with, to see what that process is going to be like, and when they're going to be able to start taking that loan forgiveness application from you.
Okay. When do you anticipate the forgiveness application to be available?
It actually is available. If you go to SBA.gov, it's there. It's also on Treasury.gov's website. It's 11 pages, and basically, 2.5 of those pages are the actual application. The rest of the information is instructions on kind of, depending on your specific situation, it helps walk you through. There are rumors, and they are rumors, so take them for what it is, that there is going to be a simplified application for those loans that are actually in lower dollar amounts, that they're talking below 150, 150K or 250K, where it's going to be an easy 2-page loan forgiveness application. But again, that is not gospel yet. That's not true. It's just rumors. There is going to be additional guidance that comes out when it comes to loan forgiveness. So if you're wanting to apply for loan forgiveness right now, I would wait. Maybe a couple more weeks, because we are going to be issuing, and when I say we, it's Treasury and the SBA is going to be issuing more guidance and hopefully a more streamlined loan forgiveness application for those lower dollar amounts.
We've had a few questions about what happens if an employee cannot return to work due to illness, all different kinds of reasons. Are we still able to seek loan forgiveness?
Yes. So in the payroll, so one, if they take FMLA or leave or whatever, that is actually acceptable in that payroll cost. But let's say hypothetically they were on unemployment or however you handled it, and they contact you, whether A, they don't want to come back, maybe they say, hey, I like staying at home or whatever it may be, or B, one thing I keep hearing is, hey, I'm making more money on unemployment than I would working for you. Why would I come back to you when I can just continue being on unemployment? So Treasury issued a rule on that said we are not going to hold the business owner accountable for that. What I would say is you document. And what I'm going to recommend is you send them a letter, a certified letter that you certainly keep a copy of, saying, hey, I offered you to come back. I offered to pay you back at your previous level, and you said no. Okay, make sure it has a date on it, and then you put that in your PPP loan forgiveness file so that you can ensure that you cover yourself. Okay, I would also send them an email. Just document. That's what we say in the legal profession. Document it, and I'm sure in the accounting world they say the same thing. So, but there is a specific rule that says we will not hold you accountable if an employee does not come back to work for you if you gave them a verified job offer. The other thing I will add to that is you don't have to bring back the exact same employee. Okay, right. So I do know there's some business owners out there that have told me, yeah, I've used this to kind of let some of the employees go that we didn't really want to have come back. That's not great, but you are allowed to do that. So
that was a question that came up a lot. Are replacement employees considered? Thanks for clarifying that. If someone returned the PPP loan in May, but now realizes they do qualify and will need the money, will they be able to reapply?
It is my understanding, yes. Now, obviously, if you got the proceeds, it's a one bite of the apple program. It's literally states in the law, you can only have one PPP loan. So what I would do is contact your lender and have them certainly contact us, and we will make sure that you're taken care of.
Okay, great. Let me go back to the bottom here. We've only got another minute. I want to see. This is from Jessica. So only new PPP loans will qualify with the new Flexibility Act provisions. That's the question. So if our loan was dispersed in May, we still have to use the 75% rules and only have the 8-week period?
No. So it's my understanding that you can actually use the 60-40 split.
One more I think we can take. please re-explain the difference between the rules of forgiveness between business who received the loan before and after the Flexibility Act.
State that again.
Wants to know the difference between forgiveness between the time after the flexibility of June 5th, after the new guidelines happened. Well, what changed? Just the overview.
Yeah, so you had the 8-week compliance period. Now it's 24 weeks, so you have until the end of the calendar year. It also, the thing that really changed was the 60-40 split. So you can use 60% on payroll and 40% of the qualified business expenses, when prior it was 75-25. So it's basically those two main things. The other thing, which I actually failed to mention in my presentation, is say like there are folks out there that, you know what, I don't want to go through this compliance thing, or hey, I'm just going to only use 25% of it for payroll and whatever, for whatever business decision you decide you're not going to fully comply, to have it 100% forgiven. The term on a PPP loan was 2 years, 1% interest to begin paying back after that deferral period. So you would have to start paying it back. It was changed to 5 years. Okay, so it gives the term gives more flexibility on the payback period. Now, note, lenders out there are gonna want it forgiven. They do not want this debt on their books. They want to submit it. They want it forgiven. So your lender is going to work extremely hard with you to make sure that it's fully forgiven.
Thank you. We're at the end of our time together, and we could probably be another 2 hours and get through maybe 50% of the questions. But I thank you for answering the questions that you could, and for sharing the information that you did so generously. As a reminder to all of our participants today, please fill out the survey that will be emailed to you after the town hall. I want to also alert you to something that's happening next Friday. It's on your screen right now. We are going to have a town hall, a special national town hall on racial justice. We're going to have a panel of experts who will discuss how business leaders can navigate the civil unrest that's facing our nation and explore how the business community can take action. Please consider tuning into this special town hall. Rob, Connie, thank you again. We really appreciate all the information you were able to share today.
Thank you,
and
for those, for all your listeners out there, feel free to reach out to the district office in Michigan, or to myself. Connie, the Michigan email address
is michigan@sba.gov, or you can email me as well at constance.logan@sba.gov. Be glad to help you.
And then I can be reached at robert.scott, SCOTT@SBA.gov.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful afternoon.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye. It's